Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. State carrier Qatar Airways signs an agreement to purchase jets from U.S. manufacturer Boeing. What we know about this $69 billion deal. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill work overnight to mark up details in the GOP's new budget. Medicaid is at the center of this debate. We'll have the latest. A legal battle over a historic national security law intensifies, with the Trump administration securing a judicial win in Pennsylvania. Several states experienced severe flooding. Authorities recovered the body of a 12-year-old boy who was swept away in Virginia. And the U.S. Naval Academy's freshmen test their ingenuity, perseverance, and ability to work together as they form a human pyramid and attempt to climb a 21-foot greasy pole.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President Donald Trump arrived today in Qatar. The president was greeted by the country's ruling emir, Sheikh Tamim Al Thani, as he kicked off the second leg of his three-nation Middle East tour.
Mr. President, I've known you for many years. I know that you're a man of peace. I know that you want to bring peace to this region. We all want to do so. And we hope that this time we can do the right thing and bring peace here in the region, Mr. President. Also, two exciting things in your country. You're going to be hosting the World Cup, right? Football, and as you guys call it, soccer. Right. You're going to be also hosting the Olympics as well, right, which is very, 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 very important.
President Trump was driven through an elaborate welcome parade with men on horseback, on camelback, and as well as traditional dancers flanking his convoy. He arrived at the Doha Royal Palace and was greeted once more by Al Thani. Al Thani shook hands with U.S. officials and gave an especially warm greeting to Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff. Witkoff has played a key role in Middle East negotiations. They clasped hands and pulled each other in for an embrace. President Trump then sat down briefly with Al Thani and marveled at the government palace. Meanwhile, President Trump and the Qatari emir also signed a series of agreements following the president's arrival. The White House said these agreements will generate an economic exchange worth at least $1.2 trillion. Among them, state carrier Qatar Airways agreed to purchase commercial jets from Boeing.
From Boeing, that's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. And that's 140. Was that a 140 or 160? Well, yeah, but you're right. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets. That's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly. And congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there. Get them out there.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth joined the meeting as well to sign several agreements. The White House released a fact sheet summarizing some of the deal's details. It includes a $96 billion deal with Qatar Airways to buy up to 210 Boeing airplanes. They also include a statement of intent that could lead to $38 billion in investments at a Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base, as well as other air defense capabilities. The American, Russian, and Ukrainian presidents could all be in Turkey tomorrow. President Trump said today that he didn't know if Russian President Vladimir Putin would show up for talks to end the war in Ukraine. Trump spoke to reporters traveling aboard Air Force One en route to Qatar.
He would like me to be there, and that's a possibility. If we could end the war, I'd be thinking about it. So we have a very full situation. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't do it to save a lot of lives and come back. But, yeah, I think they're thinking about something. I don't know that he would be there if I'm not there.
Trump has said he may visit Turkey for the talks as part of his trip to the Middle East this week. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said yesterday that he would only attend if Putin was also there. Today, the Kremlin said it would send a delegation to Istanbul, but did not say who would be representing Moscow. Direct talks between Ukrainian and Russian negotiators last took place in Istanbul in March of 2022. That was back in the early weeks of Russia's invasion. President Trump discussed the trade deal with China and Qatar's offer of a Boeing jet during an interview on Air Force One. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that, as well as new sanctions that are connected to Iranian oil shipments to Beijing.
Aboard Air Force One, the president commented on whether he would deal with China Xi directly on the final trade deal details, speaking on Fox News Channel's Hannity.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I'm not sure that it'll be necessary, but that happened with the UK.
Trump says the trade agreement has a lot of potential benefits for both nations.
It was mentioned, but we don't talk about it yet. That's the opening up of China to U.S. business. And that would be like opening up a whole new world, and I think it would be even better for China.
Trump also discussed Qatar's offer of a Boeing jet. Trump repeated it would be stupid not to accept the gift, which would be used as U.S. Air Force One.
So they said to me, we would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things, and we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going.
Trump reacted to those who say he shouldn't accept such gifts for the country.
My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift?
House Speaker Mike Johnson says it's the president's call.
I think the president would agree that we've got to do a careful check for security concerns. But beyond that, it's his decision.
Johnson says there is no conflict with the Constitution.
I mean, clearly, I think the intent of the Alliance Clause is that you don't give personal gifts for personal use and all of that. This is an official aircraft intended for that purpose and will be used for that purpose.
Some Senate Republicans and Democrats are skeptical of accepting the plane.
Air Force One is the most complicated piece of aircraft in the world. It needs so much. So much goes into it, a lot of which is classified.
There'll be plenty of scrutiny. There are lots of issues around that I think will attract very serious questions if and when it happens.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury has sanctioned more than 20 companies accused of helping Iran ship billions in oil to China. Funds officials say were used to fuel Iran's missile program, drone development, and terrorist attacks. The network tied to Iran's military and front company, Sefer Energy, includes firms in Singapore and China. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the department has rapidly moved to implement President Trump's maximum pressure campaign on Iran. Bessent says the United States will continue targeting this primary source of revenue so long as the regime continues its support for terrorism and proliferation of deadly weapons. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
So let's stay on President Donald Trump's trip to the Middle East. We're now bringing on Armin Kurdian, national security analyst and retired U.S. Navy captain. Armin, it's great having you on today. Let's start with this latest piece of news, right? President Trump meeting with Syria's president in Saudi Arabia today. It's the first time that U.S. and Syria's leaders have met in a quarter of a century, Armin. And during that meeting, President Trump called for Syria to normalize relations with Israel. Of course, we've seen Israel it's continued to express reservations about this new Syrian administration. But what do you see President Trump's strategy being here?
Trump's strategy, first of all, good afternoon, Fiona, is the same as it's always been, is to bring peace to all areas of the world. The last time the U.S. and Syria really found themselves strongly on the same side of the issue was the first Gulf War. And that was 1991, when Syrian and U.S. forces actually fought side by side. This new Syrian regime, obviously we need to keep both eyes open and make sure that they are proper members of the global community. But I do believe that the rejection of the Assad regime, the rejection of Iran as a proxy, the rejection and the desire to kick the Russians out as well, is something that has to be acknowledged and in some way, shape, or form rewarded. I think relaxation of some of the sanctions against Syria at this point is a gesture of goodwill. I do believe that Iranian proxies are still acting within Syrian borders, and the new Syrian government, I think, is trying to eliminate that and try to continue to isolate them and push them out. But ultimately, if we can bring Syria into the fold of the rest of the Gulf states, perhaps some modicum of entry into the Abraham Accords, I think it could be a win-win for everyone.
Well, we're already seeing President Trump announcing all kinds of deals, whether it be with Qatar or Saudi Arabia. Do you think this type of cooperation could be seen with Syria in the future as well?
I certainly hope so. Any kind of economic cooperation. First of all, let's be very clear. Syria is a very poor and impoverished nation. Outside of their external support from Iran and Russia, they were very, very weak. They may speak very loudly and they may have acted in a hostile fashion, but really, internally, they are very, very weak in a very poor country. So they need this kind of external investment. And who knows, perhaps this kind of external investment, this kind of transactional diplomacy that Trump is very, very good at, could perhaps raise the Syrian standard of living, perhaps mollify their opinions of the West. Let's remember the Syrian people themselves have seen the West sanction them and go after them very, very hard, which was basically a source of strength for the Assad regime to say, look how terrible the West is, we're your allies. That will take time to go away, but it can, especially with the leadership and the communications from the rest of the Arab states.
All right, and speaking of those investment deals, Armin, let's talk about this agreement we're seeing with Saudi Arabia. We've got some details here, right? Tech giants, including Google, they're investing in both countries, so both Saudi Arabia and the U.S. It's a deal that's going to be worth around $80 billion. We've got a $142 billion defense agreement, of course, which we've heard about. That's going to include things like space security, border security, communications, and more. And we're also seeing that Saudi Arabia is going to allow the use of Starlink in its territory. Is this a warming of ties here?
Fiona, let's look at it from a larger context. $1.2 trillion of deals are coming out of this trip. And you have Democrats who are concerned about a $400 million airplane gift from Qatar. That's all they can talk about. We're talking about 3,000 times that amount in terms of investment in business deals and jobs, the Boeing planes, the investment in quantum technology, in data centers, other manufacturing, energy infrastructure, energy investments, and exploitation. It's just absolutely massive. It's more than I think any of us could have really hoped for coming out of this. It's going to have huge implications for the economy of the Middle East. It's going to have huge implications for jobs here at home. And frankly, I think it's also going to have some implications for Israel when it comes to Gaza and bringing peace to that area. The Saudis have been very clear that there needs to be some kind of horizon for a discussion of a Palestinian state. That's their soft way of saying, look, we need to do something. And I think Trump will put a little bit of pressure on Netanyahu, but of course, Trump and Netanyahu have a very strong relationship. So you can see it goes down to 2 or 3 or 4 layers. It's a very tangled web. But the way it's started to get untied and put together right now is exceptionally promising.
And speaking of Israel, I just want to touch on that really briefly. There are some who are questioning why President Trump didn't choose to include Israel in this trip. But I was speaking to another analyst yesterday, and he was saying, President Trump has already clearly established what kind of a tie he has with Benjamin Netanyahu. He doesn't need to go there to prove that this time around. Is that how you read it?
Absolutely. They've already met with Netanyahu. They have a very strong and deep relationship. And I've said before that these headlines about Trump being disappointed in Netanyahu are overblown. I think they're trying to basically, hurt the administration, make the administration look bad. I think it's failed on its face. Ultimately, there will be some kind of transactional deal because look what Trump did during his first administration, really strangled Iran, brought them to heel, eliminated their economic ability to support Hamas and Hezbollah. So long as Hamas and Hezbollah have continued getting any kind of support from Iran or some of the rest of the wealthy folks in the Middle East that support them, you're not going to have a Palestinian state. It's just not physically possible. Once that support goes away, and then perhaps we start to invest in the Gaza Strip, because let's be honest, it could potentially be a very valuable piece of real estate where we could be exploited. Remember, Beirut used to be an exceptionally beautiful city. Tourists all over the world would flock there for the resorts and the sun. You could do the same thing in Gaza. That kind of economic activity could really lift Gaza. And if that's the case, they wouldn't need Iran or these other proxies anymore. They wouldn't need Hamas. They wouldn't need Hezbollah. So a lot of work yet to do there. But, you keep that in mind. You keep that level of promise in mind. And this is something that I think Netanyahu might be amenable towards. Whatever you want to define as a Palestinian state, liberation of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank from the influence of Iran and its proxies is a big first step.
All right, and now President Trump is in Qatar, and the U.S. has announced today that Qatar Airways is going to buy up to 210 Boeing 787 jets. President Trump has said that this is the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. This deal is reportedly worth $96 billion. Armin, is this just President Trump's plan and promise of bringing prosperity back to U.S. businesses, or is there something deeper here?
Well, I don't know that the previous administration would have had the credibility or the ability to bring these kinds of deals back home. I think it's just part of a larger scope there. But it is a huge win for Boeing, especially considering some of the troubles and the problems that they've had. Boeing commercial aircraft has really been the heart of Boeing's business. I don't think they ever should have been allowed to purchase the military aspect of the business. I think it's hurt their commercial side a lot more than it's helped them in the long run. I think Boeing is looking to try to be a large conglomerated company, kind of like United Technologies is. They need to focus on these commercial aircraft. But having said that, the amount of jobs this is going to bring back to the U.S., you're looking at maybe 150,000 jobs per year to build these aircraft. Is going to put Boeing's backlog back to where it needs to be. It's going to be great for their bottom line, great for the investment back in the U.S. Boeing is also basically has become an arm of U.S. diplomacy, and they are on the hook, and they need to deliver a very high quality product on time to Qatar to continue to foster this kind of goodwill.
The U.S. also signed a joint cooperation statement with Qatar, but we're still waiting on details. But especially from a national security point of view here, what could this deal look like?
You've got Al Udeid, you've got Camp Doha, you've got a lot of weapons that are being sold to Saudis and the Qataris, missiles, aircraft, drones, anti-missile systems, surface-to-air missile systems, defense systems. A lot of these kinds of things which are going to be vital to help protect those regions from Iranian attack. You see, remember that Iran launched a drone attack against Saudi refining capability, causing massive amount of damage to Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure and sent oil price shockwaves throughout the world. So this is exceptionally vital and valuable, but it's also going to put some pressure, additional pressure on the U.S. supply chains and the ability of our defense industry to basically produce at that level. You can't just throw a bunch of money at the defense industry and expect it to be able to, produce at a much higher rate at the snap of a finger. So this is a much longer term problem for the defense industry, but it does signal confidence in U.S. defense, confidence in U.S. defense capabilities, and confidence in our ability to basically defend our allies as they perhaps are concerned about Trump's rhetoric about pulling back from other parts of the world. You look at Ukraine and other places, and Trump is supposedly seen as an isolation, which is really not the case. He just believes in peace. He understands that peace is a lot more profitable than war in the long term, and a strong defense is the way to is a way to deter aggression in the future.
So, Armin, you mentioned the Abraham Accords earlier on. How likely do you see Qatar or Saudi Arabia ultimately joining?
I would be shocked and surprised if there was not some kind of reconciliation or peace deal or what have you before the end of Trump's first term.
All right. Well, then you mentioned there's a lot of layers to this. Of course, it's a very complicated issue in the Middle East. But in a general picture here, what kind of a trajectory do you think U.S. Middle East relations are taking right now?
Well, I think they're on the right path. The previous administration's foreign policy was feckless all over the place and very poorly received by the rest of the world. The Middle East recognizes strength. The Middle East recognizes business. The Middle East recognizes the want for stability there. A lot of times, in truth and fairness, a lot of these Arab nations, Iran, have used the Palestinian question as mostly a red herring, because if they really, really cared about the Palestinians that much, they would have done a lot more to help the Palestinian cause than they actually have. They're more like using the Palestinians as simply a finger to stick in Israel's eye, or at times the U.S.'s eye. But overall, this is a very positive step to continue to make a bulwark against Iranian influence in that region. You see, what the U.S. did with the Houthi rebels. They were obviously enemies of the rest of the Arab states, so the U.S. spending several weeks degrading them, preventing their ability of attacking the rest of shipping And frankly, I don't think they'll really have the capacity to attack Israel anymore. Is a big step. The U.S. is also putting more sanctions on to Iran and trying to enforce those sanctions against them selling their oil as we try to get them to get rid of their nuclear program in their quest to achieve a nuclear weapon. Ultimately, I think this is a big, big positive. And, it can't just be the U.S. and Israel against Iran. The Arab states are also very much against Iran. In fact, in some ways, because of religious differences, perhaps even more so than we are. But they have to live in that same region of the world. We live all the way on the other side of the planet. So there's that dynamic that is always playing out. But strong ties and strong connections with these countries. Russia is tied down with Ukraine in that war. So Russian influence in that region of the world, they simply don't have the bandwidth to actually do it. So this is a major, massive opportunity for the U.S. to really establish itself with strong relationships, strong ties, strong economic ties, diplomatic ties, and bringing further peace to the rest of the Middle East. And I think Trump wants to do it because he loves making deals. He understands how valuable it is for the United States to be engaged in these economic cooperative deals as well. The Middle East wants it as well. They don't like conflict or war, so we're on a very good trajectory.
Yeah, it's the art of the deal, right? Armin, final point for you here. Trade talks with China are still also ongoing. The Chinese regime, it's got extensive ties in the Middle East, particularly with Iran. What kind of a message is President Trump sending to China with this trip?
Well, Trump is sending a very strong message to China on a regular basis, not just with this trip. He's very serious about punishing China as a cheater. But right now, the reality is that we are still reliant on a lot of Chinese goods. And the tariffs, while I think were a good way to get things started, over the long term, if we don't strike a deal with China and the tariffs maintain high very much, it will have a deleterious effect on our economy, much more so in China, but they can perhaps weather that storm a lot more simply because of their command control of their economy. Ultimately, Donald Trump doesn't hate anybody. He doesn't like anybody. He just wants a deal. He just wants peace. But I would caution him about China's inability to stick to deals. I'm very, very concerned about their continued cyber attacks, theft of intellectual property. That, for me, is the biggest thing, especially stealing from our defense contractors, taking our technology and incorporating it into their own Chinese military. That is a big issue, along with their investment in missiles, hypersonic missiles, weapons, and drones that could execute a very strong first strike on U.S. Indo-Pacific forces, Japanese forces, if they were to use it as a prelude to an invasion of Taiwan. So again, a very tangled web. Perhaps economic benefits for both sides would be good, but at the same time, China is motivated by a lot of other means. So just because we might be able to get a good trade deal with China doesn't necessarily pull them off the hook.
Yep, and hopefully we get you back on to untangle that web a little bit soon. All right, Armin Kurdian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Fiona. Have a great day.
Coming up, a legal battle over a historic national security law intensifies, with the Trump administration securing a judicial win in Pennsylvania. We'll be right back.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I am living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Welcome back. Heavy rain is causing severe flooding in several states. The body of a 12-year-old boy who went missing last night in Virginia has now been recovered. A 911 caller reported that the boy was walking outside when he was swept away by the water. Local fire rescue said the boy of what is believed to be Jordan Sims was found by crews searching for him this morning. Across the Potomac, a dozen students sheltered overnight at a Maryland high school. In Maryland's Allegheny County, officials said about 150 students and 50 adults were evacuated yesterday from Westernport Elementary School. Officials there urged residents to stay home, warning that several secondary roads have been flooded. Following the overnight marathon meeting, the House Ways and Means Committee advanced its portion of the GOP's tax bill this morning. The vote is 26-19 along party lines.
There being 26 yeses and 19 noes, the motion is agreed to and the committee print as amended is adopted.
I don't know if there was a time obligation that the majority felt they had, but I do think in the future, this is the longest in 33 years that I've ever been in this room at any one time for a markup. And I hope that in the future we could accommodate the respective parties by doing this in the morning.
The tax bill now goes to the House Budget Committee. The panel will combine all the portions of Trump's agenda bill into one package before it's considered by the full House. The tax bill makes the 2017 income tax rates permanent, which is a top priority for Trump's policy agenda. It includes no tax on tips or overtime through 2028 and temporarily increases the child tax credit along with other provisions. A legal fight over one of America's oldest national security laws is heating up. The Trump administration just won a key victory in Pennsylvania. Here are those details.
It's a good one.
A federal judge in Pennsylvania has ruled that President Trump can invoke the Alien Enemies Act, an 18th century wartime statute, to deport migrants suspected of gang ties. The ruling from U.S. District Judge Stephanie Haynes marks the first judicial support for Trump's use of the law, putting her at odds with 3 other federal judges in Texas, Colorado, and New York. Trump invoked the law in March, targeting members of Tren de Aragua, or TDA, a Venezuelan gang he labeled a foreign terrorist group and accused of invading the U.S. In the Pennsylvania case, Judge Haynes found that TDA's action meet the law's definition of a predatory incursion. Her ruling applies only to detainees in western Pennsylvania, including a Venezuelan national held near Phillipsburg. But the judge also acknowledged civil rights concerns, ordering that detainees must be given 21 days' notice in English and Spanish, and a chance to challenge deportation in court. The ACLU, which has filed lawsuits across the country, says it will appeal the ruling. In a separate legal battle, a state judge in Wisconsin was indicted by a federal grand jury after allegedly helping an illegal immigrant evade arrest. Judge Hannah Dugan of Milwaukee County was indicted on 2 federal charges, obstruction and concealing an individual to prevent arrest. The charges stem from an incident in April when federal agents arrived at the courthouse to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a previously deported Mexican national facing domestic violence charges. Dugan allegedly confronted the agents, demanded they leave, and then escorted Flores Ruiz and his lawyer through a jury door, a private exit normally reserved for court staff and in-custody defendants. Agents caught up with Flores Ruiz outside the building after a brief foot chase, and he was taken into custody. Dugan was later arrested by the FBI and released on her own recognizance. She faces up to 6 years in federal prison if convicted on both counts. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has since suspended her from the bench, saying it was necessary to protect public confidence in the judiciary. Judge Dugan denies wrongdoing, and her lawyers say she looks forward to being vindicated in court. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is ramping up its immigration enforcement efforts, with federal agents making major arrests across the country. In Washington, D.C., 189 individuals were arrested last week in a targeted operation focusing on violent offenders. Interim U.S. Attorney Ed Martin warns that the city's sanctuary policies are undermining local law enforcement's ability to keep D.C. safe.
D.C. local leadership, the council and others, has made D.C. a sanctuary city. We're all familiar with that. But the cost of that is something that is paid by the citizens. And I warn you, as we've looked more and more at the sanctuary city provisions, that it is crippling law enforcement in their effort, local law enforcement, to make sure to keep D.C. safer.
Meanwhile, in Nashville, 196 suspected illegal immigrants were arrested in a similar operation, with 95 having prior criminal convictions or pending charges. Nashville's Mayor Freddie O'Connell has criticized federal raids and emphasized the trauma caused to local communities. This week, he signed an order requiring his office to track and report interactions with federal immigration authorities.
A coalition of 20 states is taking the Trump administration to court. They're accusing the administration of leveraging critical federal funding to force cooperation with immigration enforcement. The states filed 2 lawsuits and are led by Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul. The first targets the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Department of Homeland Security. The second suit targets the Department of Transportation. They allege the administration is threatening to withhold disaster relief and infrastructure grants unless states assist with federal immigration enforcement. The attorneys general argue this oversteps executive authority, and violates the Constitution's spending clause, which gives Congress, and not the president, control over federal funds. They warn that withholding billions in funding could impact public safety, flood protection, and transportation projects. The administration defended its stance, saying states that defy immigration law should not benefit from federal support. Drug overdose deaths are down significantly in the U.S. Data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention finds that there were about 30,000 fewer overdose deaths in 2024 compared to the previous year. That equates to a 27% drop. The 80,000 plus overdose deaths last year is the lowest level in 5 years. The decline comes following a surge to record levels during the pandemic. Data shows that synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl, continue to be involved in most overdose deaths. However, those deaths fell at an even steeper rate, 37%. Experts say the promising trend is likely the result of a wide range of persistent efforts starting to make an impact. A major step in America's legal fight against transnational drug networks. Prosecutors have charged alleged leaders of the Sinaloa cartel with narco-terrorism. The Justice Department says the charges are a direct result of a Trump administration order. 2 top figures of a violent faction of the Sinaloa cartel are charged with narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. The DOJ alleges they ran the world's largest fentanyl operation and trafficked tens of thousands of kilos into the U.S. Last year, Mexican law enforcement seized more than 1.5 tons of fentanyl in a 2024 raid. That's the largest seizure of its kind. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi called the cartel a terrorist organization and vowed to pursue life sentences. U.S. Attorney for Southern California Adam Gordon warned cartel leaders they're now being hunted, and they are no longer the hunters. The charges are the first under Trump's executive order labeling cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The Trump administration cut $2.7 billion in National Institutes of Health research funding through the first 3 months of this year. This is according to a new Senate committee report. Senator Bernie Sanders authored the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee's Minority Staff Report. Kennedy said in March that HHS would be overhauled, with some 10,000 workers fired and 28 divisions being narrowed to just 15. He said the reorganization was aimed at making the sprawling agency more effective and efficient. In total, HHS fired 8,421 employees in the reduction in force, this according to the new report. The report describes the Trump administration's actions as a war on science and calls for an end to the research funding cuts. HHS criticized the report on X, saying it is, quote, a politically motivated distortion that undermines the thousands of dedicated public health professionals across HHS who remain steadfast in their commitment to delivering results for the American people. The Social Security Administration is reminding workers about what to do if they encounter someone who has incorrectly been declared dead. Spurred by the Department of Government Efficiency, the SSA is combing through its databases to check if beneficiaries are alive or dead. Some managers got an email to remind their staff that death correction cases should be addressed that same day and don't need to have appointments. Dates of death were added to millions of people's records, focusing on those who are implausibly old. Sometimes people are wrongly declared dead and have to work with Social Security to fix the problem. Moving on, Lyle and Eric Menendez have served 35 years of a life prison term. That's for the 1989 shotgun murders of their parents in their Beverly Hills home. The brothers were ruled eligible for parole at a resentencing hearing yesterday. Here's what we know so far.
The Menendez brothers were sentenced to life with parole on Tuesday, paving the way for their possible release. The pair have spent 3 decades in a California jail for killing their parents with shotguns at their Beverly Hills home in 1989. They were originally sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. At trial, the brothers admitted to committing the killings but insisted they did so out of fear that their parents were about to kill them following years of abuse by their father. Because they were youthful offenders then and have already served half of Tuesday's new 50-year sentences, they're immediately eligible for parole under state law. Now 57 and 54, Lyle and Eric listened in via video link from prison, where they'll remain for the time being. The brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos, spoke outside the court.
I just know that on a day like today, that redemption is possible. The fact is, the Menendez brothers have done remarkable work, and today is a great day after 35 years. And I'm hopeful and glad that we're one huge step closer to bringing the boys home.
It's the latest turn in a case that captivated the U.S. in the 1990s because of the brothers' wealth and privilege as sons of a record company and entertainment industry executive. It's been back in the spotlight after a Netflix series raised new evidence to support their claims they were abused by their parents. Last fall, former District Attorney George Gascon cited that evidence to petition for resentencing the brothers to a lesser crime and releasing them. His successor, DA Nathan Hochman, disagreed after taking office, saying the brothers have yet to fully acknowledge and accept responsibility for the killings. Under California law, a state parole board must now weigh in on the case, consider whether they deserve to be released, and make a recommendation to California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Sean Diddy Combs' criminal trial enters its 3rd day. His former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is expected to resume her testimony today. In great detail yesterday, she recounted how the rapper and hip-hop mogul made her a central figure in his alleged sex trafficking.
Cassandra Ventura, the former girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, and the prosecution's star witness, took the stand on Tuesday in the hip-hop mogul's sex trafficking trial. The R&B singer testified that her music career began to suffer as she increasingly spent her time participating in days of drug-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs organized by Combs. Ventura said she began taking part in the freak-offs to please Combs and continued for over a decade because he blackmailed her with videos of the encounters. She said the freak-offs became a job where there was no space to do anything else. 55-year-old Combs has pleaded not guilty to 5 felony counts of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. A pregnant Ventura testified that she started dating Combs in her early 20s and that he frequently beat her, leaving her with black eyes and bruises all over her body. On Monday, the prosecution introduced a video from 2016 showing Combs assaulting Ventura as she tried to enter an elevator at a Los Angeles area hotel. Combs' defense conceded to jurors that he had a bad temper and jealousy problems, but said this had nothing to do with sex trafficking or racketeering. The trial is expected to last 2 months and include testimony from another 2 or possibly 3 of Combs's other female accusers, as well as his former employees who prosecutors say helped arrange and cover up his actions. If convicted on all counts, he faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years and could face life in prison.
When we come back, the American, Russian, and Ukrainian presidents could all be in Turkey tomorrow. President Trump says he doesn't know if Russian President Vladimir Putin will show up for Ukraine peace talks. We'll have that story when we come back.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay." And I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Thanks for staying with us. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky posted on X about the possible ceasefire talk in Turkey tomorrow. He said he's waiting to see who's going to come from Russia, and then he'll be deciding which steps Ukraine should take. President Trump talked about attending the meeting in Turkey himself if needed. Zelensky said that sent a strong signal, and he also expressed gratitude to all countries and leaders helping with the peace talks. The head of Russia's only independent election watchdog was sentenced today to 5 years in a penal colony. The co-chair of the movement was found guilty of working with a, quote, undesirable organization. Grigory Melkonyants was arrested in August of 2023. He pleaded not guilty at his trial. Human rights campaigners say the case against the 44-year-old is part of a wider suppression of civil society. Dissent has been widely crushed since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The charges against Melkonyants were based on his alleged involvement with the European network of election monitoring organizations. The Japanese Consulate General in Shanghai says that a Chinese court sentenced a Japanese man to prison on spying charges. The man is in his 50s. The man was first arrested in 2021. Japanese public broadcaster NHK reported that Japanese officials were allowed at his hearing yesterday, but it could not disclose details of the case, citing privacy concerns. The NHK reportedly added that the Japanese embassy in Beijing said Japanese nationals detained in China must be released early. The news outlet said embassy officials also called for transparency in the man's case and requested he be treated fairly. Romanians returned to the polls this Sunday for a presidential runoff led by nationalist candidate George Simion. Simion is calling for a fair election as his political group expresses concern over possible interference. Here's NTD's international correspondent David Vives, who had a chance to speak with him.
Romanians will decide this Sunday who their next president will be. Earlier this month, nationalist candidate George Simion won a staggering 40% of the vote, and polls expect him to win the second round. This election is a rematch of one held last December. Then nationalist candidate Călin Georgescu won, but the Constitutional Court annulled his victory over claims of Russia's interference. Today, Georgescu has joined Simion, and their political group is now favored to win the upcoming round. However, concerns remain over potential interference from European Union bodies, as calls to mobilize against Simion continue to grow. In an interview with NTD and the Epoch Times, George Simion called for a fair election.
We are an independent sovereign state. This is why my appeal to the international opinion, to our allies and partners from the EU and NATO, is to let the Romanian people decide what they want in the future.
Media outlets portray the election as highly divisive. Geopolitical factors such as stances toward Ukraine and Europe are influencing public debate. Simion advocates halting military aid to Ukraine, while his opponent, Nicos Ordan, supports Ukraine's EU membership. The former mayor of Bucharest promised to eliminate corruption, tax evasion, and money laundering in the country, and hopes to address what he calls social and cultural divisions in Romania. Dan says the election is a debate over Romania's direction, whether to align more closely with the West or not. Media outlets have also portrayed Simion as pro-Trump and critical of Europe. Simion denied those claims, saying that if elected, he will strengthen Romania's partnerships with both the US and the EU. Simion also expresses concern that conservative voices are being silenced in Europe by establishments, echoing recent US administration calls regarding free speech and the alleged censorship of political groups on the continent.
Also in Poland, you saw how their political opponents are forbidden and are being victims of a police state, like in France and Germany with Marine Le Pen or with AfD. I want to refer to J.D. Vance's speech in a Munich Security Conference that was an ointment to our souls. We are seeking for justice, we are seeking for the truth, and we want to be free and to remain part of this free world.
Simion says the current political narrative is deepening divisions among the public.
Some, including the Russians, are trying to dismantle and to separate. They want to create two geopolitical bodies that oppose each other. One would be the US and the other the EU. We want to remain together, and we advocate for unity at the level of the free world.
Elections in Romania will be held on May 18th. The vote will be monitored by a top US election official sent by the Trump administration. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Up next, 5,000 potato varieties give the world a lot to choose from. And in Australia, a sister duo works to widen consumer tastes for spuds. Stay with us.
Hurry in and shop Mathis Home today during the Monumental Savings Event for deals in every department. Get huge discounts on hundreds of sofas in all the latest styles. Come and see the latest looks in bedrooms and dining rooms at the lowest prices ever. You can get it all in stock with fast and free delivery. Even an incredible selection of patio and outdoor furniture so you can enjoy every part of your home. For the best service, selection, and value, don't miss out on the Monumental Savings Event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85,
Please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
Welcome back. Dozens of U.S. Naval Academy freshmen successfully completed the Herndon Monument climb this morning. It's a school tradition that dates back to the 1950s. Every year, the freshmen, known as plebes, form a human pyramid and then attempt to climb a 21-foot-tall pole to replace a Dixie Cup hat with an upperclassman's hat. They work together to scale the Herndon Monument, named after Navy Commander William Lewis Herndon. It took the plebes 2 hours, 32 minutes to replace the cap last year. The tradition first began in 1950, though it did not feature any grease. This was later introduced as upperclassmen apparently thought the challenge was too easy, so they began covering the structure with vegetable shortening. At a historic port for sailors heading to the New World, a plantation on a Portuguese island chain has been growing tea leaves since the 1800s. The oldest of its kind in Europe, little has changed there. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas, who has more on the family running this operation.
In a remote swath of the Atlantic Ocean lies São Miguel Island. Part of Portugal's Açores archipelago, São Miguel is home to the Guarana tea factory, the oldest in Europe. Maria Madalena Mota represents the 5th generation of her family to run the plantation and factory.
You have 32 hectares, but in the world tea, it's very little. In Bangladesh, there's one that have the area of our islands. But in Europe, we are the biggest one.
Those 32 hectares make roughly 40 tons of tea annually. Genuine 19th century rolling machines are still in regular use.
Our tea goes to France, Germany. The best tea goes to Germany. We sell, I think is our principal buyer, Portugal, and the United States and Canada.
Students from Italy, Poland, and Hungary are visiting from Lisbon. They've walked the plantation and toured the factory. Now it's tea time.
I think the plantation looks amazing. I think none of the pictures show how it actually looks like, so you must see it live. And with the sun out, it's even better.
Student Martina Pozzi from Milan has a good gift to take home.
In my family, there is a tradition when somebody's traveling. Since, I don't know, souvenirs can be boring sometimes, we just bring tea to each other as like a souvenir. So I got the chance to drink a lot of tea from different countries and different places I've never been to.
Goriana gets tens of thousands of visitors every year. Tea lovers take advantage of free entry, the idyllic landscape, strolls to the plantation, and a free tasting. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Now, there are around 5,000 potato varieties worldwide. In Australia, many shoppers struggle to distinguish the vast array of produce available. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on a potato duo working to widen our taste for spuds.
In Australia, potatoes are big business. The spud industry is worth around $600 million annually, but choice for consumers is limited. For the past 35 years, Spud sisters Pharrell and Catherine Ramage have been trying to broaden consumer taste.
At a supermarket, they'll only be offered a washed potato or an unwashed potato or a red potato and a white potato. And then quite often you'll see a lot of misinformation.
The Spud sisters say the majority of consumers don't even know about the best potatoes available. The right variety can make or break a recipe.
We will have from the waxiest potato to the starchiest potato. They've all got their own texture, and once people buy the right potato for the dish that they're cooking, they've all got beautiful flavour, then it makes the dish sing.
Some lesser-known potato varieties include the King Edward and Midnight Pearl. For the Spud sisters, choice trumps aesthetics.
The kookier the potato, the better for us. Yeah. But we're all about championing what doesn't necessarily look nice, but tastes nice.
Whether mashed, baked, or fried, Australians have a lot to choose from, and variety is key, as the nation's residents consume 37 pounds of spuds every year. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up next, as part of his budget proposal, California Governor Gavin Newsom aims to halt healthcare expansion for low-income illegal immigrants. We'll break down the reasons behind this freeze and who will be impacted in the next hour. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned to get a free month of home warranty protection. Tired of searching for contractors when your home appliances and systems break down, only to leave you stuck with a huge repair bill and shoddy repairs? Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and appliance breakdowns could cost thousands.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way.
I would recommend anyone who is listening to this to call Choice Home Warranty up. It eliminates anxiety, frustration, and it saves you money.
Don't let an appliance or home system break the bank, leaving you stressed. Call Choice Home Warranty before that happens and get your first month free. Plus, call in the next 5 minutes and we'll give you free limited roof leak coverage. That's a $70 value, free. Just call now.
No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. I trust Choice Home Warranty with my home, and you should too.
Year after year, Choice Home Warranty is recognized as the nation's top home warranty and has thousands of 5-star reviews from real homeowners. Experience real budget protection and call Choice Home Warranty now.
Stop throwing money down the toilet chasing contractors. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Don't wait another minute. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. That's over $100 in savings. This offer won't last long. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-216-9114. 800-216-9114.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable.
Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.